Hello and welcome to Must Listen Music. I'm Andy Wilson. This is my weekly review of all the best new album releases, and this week I've got one album for you, which is from indie stalwarts the Decemberists and their 8th studio album, I'll Be Your Girl. Now, many years ago I had the pleasure of seeing these guys live in concert. I made the call to stump up my hard-earned cash based solely on their #1 charting album, The King Is Dead. Now, there was a good month or so where this album is pretty much all I listened to, and by the time the gig came around, I considered myself suitably equipped for a good old sing-along. Only to realise a couple of songs in that in fact this wasn't their first album, and I was stood in a gig for a band I knew very little about, let alone knew many of their songs. 5 years later, this gig has stuck in my mind for one simple reason: their live performance. It basically involved lead singer Colin Malloy encouraging the crowd to mimic the movement of a boat on a rough sea, then be thrown overboard, all to the track The Mariner's Revenge song. Believe you and me, it's quite a sight to see 5,000 people oohing and ahhing to the swaying of an imaginary boat. I was to later find out that stories of sea battles, run-ins with whales and folklore were the central point of their previous albums. Now, it's been 17 years since they formed as a band, and here we are with their 8th attempt, I'll Be Your Girl. This is, without doubt, the biggest step away from their comfort zone to date. They employed super producer John Congleton, who has worked with the likes of Franz Ferdinand, David Burns, St Vincent and literally 100 other artists to help with this change in direction. For the most part, they have moved away from the sea shanties that gained them such a cult following in the first place. They also have a brand new sound, with heavy influences they claim from New Order and Depeche Mode. There is more synth in this album than the previous 7 albums combined, and Severed is a perfect example of this. The pulsing synth, the trembling earthy voice of Malloy and the faintest of echoes makes this an extremely dark, intense track, and for a minute you forget who you're listening to. But then actually, when you take stock, it's a damn good attempt at their new direction. I'm not going to say they have nailed their new sound throughout this album. There are times when songs feel a little bit overworked, even occasionally losing their way. It's like they're trying too hard to achieve their new sound. You see this especially in the middle part of the album, and in particular, track Your Ghost, and the less we say about that track, the better. I guess the Decemberists see this album as a key point in their career, which could define the direction they move going forward. You can tell that the pressure was really on. However, they saved the best till last with the oddly named track Rusalka Rusalka / The Wild Rushes. This is an 8-minute epic full of haunting drama, which to be honest sounds more like old Decemberists than new. The first half is taken up by a slow piano, mournful tone and the ominous thud of a drum. And this creates the backdrop for a sombre story about a protagonist being enticed by a siren-like woman. The second half sees a change of pace with more positivity, typified by the inclusion of a banjo, but it takes on the storytelling baton from the first half nonetheless. When this is all pulled together, it's absolutely stunning as a track and arguably one of the best things that Decemberists have ever done. I'll Be Your Girl is a valiant attempt at their new direction. At times, it's a really exciting insight to their future, but on occasion it lost me. I just didn't get it. As a Decemberist fan, I actually missed Malloy singing about being eaten by a whale, and hope on the next album they will make sure not to lose sight of why they are big in the first place. If anything, this album is worth a listen for the last 2 tracks alone. Genuinely brilliant. The Decemberists with I'll Be Your Girl wraps up Must Listen Music this week. See you again next time.